All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to This
This week
Week in
in
Space.
space.
This is a very special edition. I'm here with a astrologer who I really like and admire and
Oh, well,
appreciate, and who is also an excellent host, Jeff Hinshaw,
thanks.
Cosmic Cousins. And
Hey,
yeah,
thanks for having
so
me.
we've been hanging out, and since I do this on Monday, I invited Jeff to join me because I love their perspective on the astrology, and they bring some good numerology. They bring some very potent tarot wisdom. So I thought it would be a real treat, not just for the folks out there in TV land, but also for me because I get to learn from you.
Yeah, Jenna's been staying with me this weekend. I live in the high desert in 29 Palms in the Joshua Tree area, and we met actually through Instagram,
Mhm.
and I just really value Jonah's perspective, and I tune in every week. So people that are in the chat, like I'm usually up in there. Cosmic.cousins is the Insta handle. So yeah, it's a pretty pivotal week, don't you think?
Oh, yes, I do. We have a bunch of things turning direct, stationing retrograde, entering their shadow. Jeff was talking about asteroids changing signs.
Yep.
So, like, lots of shifts going on. Also, for everybody out there in the YouTube and on Instagram, follow Jeff. Their work is fantastic, and they bring a very potent astrology and tarot game.
Yeah, asteroids are a big part of my practice. So we'll talk a little bit about the asteroids today. So three of the asteroids have actually shifted signs in the last week, along with everything else. We know Mars stationed direct last night at 6 p.m. We were actually in a hot spring, like holding it down, sharing and reflecting on the last 2 months that Mars has been retrograde since the start of December.
Mhm.
And really, Mars entered Cancer in September. So this could be calling to mind a larger cycle, which is interesting because we're entering eclipse season, which
Mhm.
was in September,
Mhm.
was when that Pisces full moon eclipse started. And so now we're in Pisces season 6 months
Yep.
later.
Yep. And with this new moon in Pisces, we're sort of entering into the eclipse portal. The following full moon in Virgo is going to be an eclipse. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the 13th, Friday the 3rd. No, I don't know if it's Friday, but it's the 13th. It's the full moon Virgo lunar eclipse.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that is maybe probably something really coming into our conscious awareness now that the sun's in Pisces. It's beginning to shine a light to a lot of the Pisces energy that we have floating around, which Saturn's been in Pisces since March of 2023.
Hmm.
Neptune's been in Pisces since about like
Forever.
2012.
Yeah, forever.
And this is really the last time that the sun will be in Pisces with Neptune in
Hmm.
Pisces. So, yeah,
Damn. Yeah. Whoa, I didn't even think about
yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
we just get used to that, and you're like, wow, that's normal,
yeah.
right?
So soon Pisces
Yeah.
season will be, if you're looking from a modern lens, we'll be looking to Neptune and
Mhm.
Aries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I just want to reflect on spending the Mars stationing direct in a hot tub, which Mars in Cancer I always think about as like boiling water, right?
Yeah.
Mars being this like planet of like anger, aggression, heat, right? Friction, and Cancer being the sort of like tide pool that we are immersed in, right?
Totally.
And sitting in a hot spring and getting to sit there and sort of like contemplate what was happening since December, what was happening since September when Mars first entered Cancer, and just like the kind of trajectory. And we were like calling in other people in the hot tub to like ask them what was
Mhm.
going on since September, what was going on since December, what like
Yeah.
conflicts, what frustrations, what things that you were trying to do that didn't work, and then being able to like sort of wash it all away and clean it all out.
One of the things I think of with Mars and Cancer, because it happened the last time Mars and
Mhm.
Cancer, I think I was telling you this yesterday, was my landlord sent someone over to power wash the deck the day Mars entered Cancer. So, like this forceful water,
Mhm.
but also hot water, boiling water.
Right.
One of the themes that came up in the hot spring yesterday when we were reflecting on Mars and Cancer was there was something around like people's interpersonal dynamics or intimacy, which I thought
Mhm.
was interesting. But I'm also calling to mind the day that Mars went back into Cancer was January 6th, and that was the day that the fires were starting in Los
Right.
Angeles. So there were a lot of people displaced too.
Right.
So on a collective level, Mars and Cancer definitely brought that.
Yeah.
Also standing up for women's rights, for reproductive rights, for
Trans
homes,
rights,
families, trans
queer
rights,
rights. Yep.
all of it. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah, I
Mars and
think
Cancer gets a bad rap sometimes,
right.
but it does feel like standing up for those that you love and
Y-
care about.
Yeah, it's in its fall, right? So it has a hard time sort of doing its thing. And one of the things that I talked about this last week, one of the other things that happened on the 6th Meta stopped doing third party fact checking, right? And so we have this like Mars and Cancer like standing up for the family, or standing up for our friends, or standing up for the things that we believe in, or with the retrograde it's like being cowardly and retreating, right? And like taking a path that doesn't require any like struggle or risk. And I think one of the things that's come up for me with this Mars retrograde is like, what am I willing to fight for, right? What am I willing to like struggle for? What am I willing to put my energy towards? And like it's hard and it's scary, right?
Yeah.
But Mars really calls us to action and calls us to right action. And in Cancer, I think it's like, who do we believe in? What do we believe in? What's our like family? Like, what do we feel like emotionally attached to and want to protect and like show up
Yeah.
for?
For sure. And I think it's interesting. Well, this is the first full day that Mars is direct, so
Mhm.
that feels important for highlighting this in this weekend space. There's a lot of other movement too taking place, but I'm just kind of calling to mind that Mars is really been tending to a lot of these Cancerian themes
Mm.
that could have been aggravating some of the Cancer parts of our chart or our life, but Jupiter will be entering Cancer later on this year, actually the day before the Sagittarius full moon and Gemini season. So that Sag full moon will be looking to Jupiter in Cancer. So I'm just calling to mind so whatever you've had going on in Cancer, there could be some, if we want to be reductive with Jupiter, blessings coming in
Hmm.
the Cancer realm of your life.
I don't think that blessings are ever reductive, all right?
Yeah, we'll take it. But
Yeah.
for me, Jupiter also
Yeah,
exasperates
yeah,
things.
yeah. It's like it's a complex being, right? It
Yeah.
contains multitudes. But you were saying something yesterday that I really appreciated, right? The kind of like Mars and Cancer is the like building the hot tub, right, on your deck,
Hmm.
right? And then Jupiter in Cancer is getting to enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
So like the work and the struggle and the interpersonal, like relational stuff that we're doing, the family work that we're doing, all of the like severing or like diving deep into, like when Jupiter comes along, it's like, oh, cool, like I will bless this, right? Or
Yeah.
now I get to enjoy this like work and struggle that got put in during this time period.
Totally.
So like that's just something to reflect on as we move forward. Like there's some nice things that potentially could come from the more challenging work that we've
Yeah.
been doing now.
And just as an image, I like to bring the tarot in sometime. Cancer is connected to the Chariot and the major arcana of
Hmm.
the tarot. And we were actually saying particularly it feels Mars in Cancer too.
Hmm.
And Jonah's been on a road trip really since Mars went.
Yeah, basically
Yeah.
since Mars went retrograde, I've been
Yeah.
like preparing to go on a road trip and then been traveling, and it's been going through my like ninth and tenth house. So,
Hmm.
rethinking work stuff, rethinking like, where like the map of my life and like
Hmm.
where I'm sort of like oriented in that
Hmm.
map, which has been really valuable, and it's also like helped me to kind of reorient where I want to put my energy. And, I've been in grad school for 3 years, so I was feeling like my Cancerian well of life was like pretty depleted.
Totally.
And so this is an opportunity to like fill that up and be like, cool, I want to direct this energy towards these things.
Taking action towards filling up your cup.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And I see Lauren saying I always kind of end up feeling
Feeling,
called to fight my mom. Yeah. I mean, I've
yeah.
definitely had that theme come up for
Me
me,
too. Yeah.
whether it's the internal mother or I'm thinking about the Earth mother too, and maybe Mama Earth kind of fighting back a little
Yeah.
bit too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but let's not spend too much time
Yeah.
on Mars
Let's,
direct because this is a juicy week in that
yeah.
kind of Pisces waterway.
Yeah, so on Tuesday, February the 25th, we have Mercury in Pisces conjunct Saturn in Pisces at 20 degrees and 15 arc minutes.
Mm.
So, one of the things that this brings up for me is like Saturn is heavy, right? Saturn is kind of depressed. Saturn is a negative Nelly, right?
Mhm.
And so Mercury being our cognitive processes, our thinking, our communication, right? This can bring in like some heavy thoughts and like brooding, right? And even, being like, what's the point? Why bother? This feels impossible, and I think on one level, this can be beneficial of like learning how to like be with, the reality of, our situation and like leaning into a sense of being present. And on a, more like a less skillful level, it can lead to like depression, spiraling out, feeling like you're not heard, feeling miscommunication, having difficulty feeling like your thoughts are coming through or you're able to express them, and just like a general sense of like this is a bummer. Fortunately, Mercury moves very quickly. So, like, what I urge you to do is not attach to these feelings or thoughts, right? Just allow them to pass through and notice, okay, like, this is a feeling of it's a bummer, and that's okay. Like, this will change, right? This too shall pass, I think, is a great kind of phrase for the early part of the week.
Totally. Yeah, and I think it's an opportunity to connect into what are the larger Saturn and Pisces themes that
Mm,
have been unfolding in your life. Saturn's been in Pisces since March of 2023. And the way that I've been connecting to it, because the whole time Saturn was in Aquarius, it was like social distancing time,
mhm,
which was very Saturn in Aquarius.
mhm,
It was like 2020 through 2023 was Saturn in Aquarius and
mhm.
taking responsibility for
Right,
humanity.
right.
Now that Saturn shifted into Pisces, it's felt like taking responsibility for your emotional life. I've seen a lot of people become sober with Saturn in
Yep,
Pisces, and I think that's a signature of this
yep.
placement. So Mercury being in Pisces could be like, ooh, you want to have that little drink, Saturn? And Saturn's like, no. So I do think it's a time where maybe we're receiving little messages from, with Mercury, I kind of feel like messages from the universe. It
Yeah.
can be like little synchronicities in your life. So if you are not sure how Saturn and Pisces has been showing up for you specifically, maybe open yourself up to mercurial messages
Mhm.
that can help aid you in the one final year we have of Saturn and Pisces, because Saturn's going to be in Pisces for another year. Saturn dips into Aries in May, and
Mhm.
we'll go back into Pisces, which is kind of bringing us into this next theme where Mercury, Venus, Saturn, and Neptune all enter Aries and go back into Pisces this year. So that's a major theme, is this like waking up into this new cycle, pressing the snooze button, and going back to sleep into Pisces. And that's this, for me, one of the major signatures of 2025 is this kind of
Yeah.
starting something new and then going back to
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah. Oh, I want to do it. I'm
Yeah.
sleepy, right? I want to
Or
take a nap.
I don't want to go into
Yeah.
Aries. I don't want to wake up.
Yeah.
I want to stay in the
Yeah.
Pisces soup and dream. And
Yeah.
that dream was amazing. This Aries is kind of, because Aries can sometimes be that like, you know, groggy. I don't want to wake up. I experience Aries sometimes. Like it's not always like,
Yeah.
depending on what you have at your chart,
Yeah.
Aries isn't always like, just turning the light switch on and like waking up. It
Hmm.
can be for some people.
Right.
I think if
N
they're Aries,
right.
usually.
Right. Or have a lot of fire in the chart. But no, you're right. It is that like sort of going from the undifferentiated dream world into, okay, now I have to like do something. And having to do something is challenging, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure around that. And I
It can be
think,
like the baby,
yeah,
even like temper tantrums
right,
or,
right.
just learning how to walk and talk again.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think about the glyph of Aries as the like, the ram's horns, but it's
Mhm.
also like a little sprout
Yeah.
busting, like moving its way through the crust of the earth. And that takes a lot of energy and a lot of fight to do
Totally.
that, right? And sometimes we just don't have that in us and we want to go back to sleep for another like 15 minutes or like 6 months,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
so, yeah, I would encourage you to take naps with
Hmm.
all this Pisces energy and to give yourself space to emotionally process.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Saturn is in Pisces, though, and is asking us to have some sort of structure to
Yep.
that, too.
Yep. And one of the things that we were talking about yesterday is with this movement between Aries and Pisces is, I think of Pisces as the sort of dream realm, right? The unconscious, the deep mind, right? And the sort of power that our unconscious mind has. And then as we move into Aries, it's sort of like, okay, that is the vision that is moving me or motivating me or like bringing things forward, and to really think about what is the being able to like have a container, the Saturnian container, to direct that unconscious energy or to like process that unconscious energy to make things to sort of like clean it out and direct it so that when it's time to take action, we're able to take right action, right?
Yeah.
And not be dysregulated, and that we are also like kind of creating the pathway forward for ourselves. And as we do this individually, we also help to do this collectively.
Yeah.
Right. So
Look at the light on the
I
Instagram.
know it's
Whoa.
beautiful.
Yeah, okay. Come through Pisces Aries cusp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually been living with Saturn transiting my Mercury for the last year because do have natal Mercury in
Hmm.
Pisces. And one of the ways that that has been positively expressed for me is actually getting the opportunity to utilize my professional gifts to, I'm
Hmm.
working on a book and guidebook right now So it's like publishing is somehow coming up for me with Saturn transiting my natal Mercury. And
Nice.
so I do think Mercury and Saturn together, like Saturn can aid Mercury. And if you have any like writing projects, or if there's anything, even just like writing things down, actually, I
Hmm.
shared a ritual with Jonah this morning about writing wishes down.
It's
And I think the
awesome.
physical act, like Mercury is the magician in the tarot, and your pencil is your magic wand. Like if
Yeah,
you write things out, and magicians need to speak things into
right.
existence too.
Yeah, because
So,
language is a spell, right? And spelling is spelling, right?
right.
You
Yeah.
know,
So Saturn brings some kind of structure to that, and Saturn can maybe help aid us in the manifestation of the mercurial magic.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Shall we move on?
Yeah. Let's move
All
on.
right.
I just want to note too, that the moon's in Aquarius on that day too. So we're leading into the Pisces new moon. So Pallas, the asteroid of feminine wisdom, is in Aquarius, just entered Aquarius last week too, which also gives discernment around Aquarian themes. So just bringing that into the
Nice.
mix. Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us to the new moon in Pisces, which is occurring Thursday, February the 27th. This will be exact at 4:44, what? Pacific time, making that 7:44 in the PM Eastern time. Um,
Love that.
yeah. I can pull up the new moon chart if you want to look at it.
Sure.
Would that
It's
be
at
helpful?
9 degrees of Pisces.
Yeah.
And this is something that I've noticed, and I've heard a few other people talk about it too, but the new moons have been occurring at 9 degrees since Scorpio season.
What?
So Scorpio new moon, Sag new moon, Capricorn, Aquarius. This is the fifth new moon in a row occurring at 9 degrees. So if you have anything at 9 degrees anywhere in your chart, I would be looking at that placement for sure. And we're also numerologically in a 9 year. If you add up the digits of 2025, it equals 9. And tarot, this is the Hermit,
Mm,
which is connected to Virgo. And 18, which adds up to 9, which is the moon, which you pulled this
yep.
morning, which is Pisces card. So being in a 9 year, it's already emphasizing the Virgo Pisces polarity,
Yeah.
which when we're looking at this new moon chart, I'm
Yeah.
seeing the South Node in Virgo,
Right.
and also Virgo's rising. I don't know if this is the exact moment, but yeah, Virgo's
Yeah, this is for
rising
Santa
if you're
Fe.
in Santa Fe. And yeah, there's a new moon at 9 degrees of Pisces.
Yeah, and we've been talking, me and Jeff have been talking a lot about this Virgo Pisces axis, right? And this is a new moon, so we have the sun and the moon conjunct in Pisces. But you know, we like one of the ways that we can think about astrology is the polarity point, right? The sign opposing, right? Which is where the eclipse will occur with the Virgo full moon, right? And so we have this Pisces sort of like undifferentiated cosmic consciousness, right? And then we have the Virgo that's like, that's all good, but like, did you go to the bathroom? Do you have enough snacks, right? Are we going to get there on time? How much time do you need to leave the
Mhm.
house, right? And so, you know, this is the sort of relationship. One is this like expansiveness, right? And the integrative part of Pisces, and then the kind of like discerning, analytical, like being like, this is the steps that we need to take,
Yeah,
right? And, you know, to have like that relationship in the self and to notice that relationship in the world.
yeah.
Um, and
Together they come and bring a lot of devotion, I
yeah,
find.
yeah,
Like when Virgo and Pisces come together, it's like altar building,
hmm,
and it's using that mercurial insight of Virgo to be a channel and a vessel for bringing the Piscean magic
yeah.
here. Yeah.
And one of the things that I was thinking about with this Pisces new moon, right, is the sort of like again the expansive or integrative nature of Pisces, and we were sort of talking about this with Mercury conjunct Saturn, right, in Pisces, is the sort of structure or the ways that we develop emotional intelligence with Mercury, and the ways that we create the container for our feeling states with Saturn. And with this Pisces new moon, right, one of the things that I've been thinking about is just the collective feeling, right? And
Mm,
the challenging feelings, because there are a lot of challenging feelings that are coming up, or at least arising for me these days, feelings of fear, feelings of rage, feelings of grief, right? And like these are not comfortable to sit with.
yeah.
And one of the things that I've heard is like when I'm like like this is my anger, this is my grief, right? It isolates me and keeps me separate, right? That is the like sort of separating or like discerning or like discriminating part, right? But when I'm like, oh, this is the feeling of grief that I'm experiencing through my body, right? And this is a universal feeling that like so many other people around the world are feeling right now, right? This is the feeling of fear, right? Which feels really uncomfortable in my body, but like all of these people are experiencing it. And instead of being like, this is my fear and I'm isolated and really scared by myself, how can I tune into like, this is a vibe that I'm feeling in the collective? And then like in knowing that I am connected to all y'all out there and like all these people around the world who are feeling this similar thing, like it makes it a little easier to bear for me, right?
Mhm.
And it doesn't like answer that question, but I can sit with it in a different
Yeah.
way.
I'm just smiling because on the Zoom, the
Mhm.
light is bathing you.
Yeah.
So cool. And it's reminding me like Pisces new moon is a time to invite in magic and music and connection into your
Hmm.
life. And I know that night is going to be a special night. And it's Thursday too, which
Hmm.
is Jupiter's day. And traditionally, Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, which
Hmm.
is in Gemini right now. And it's forming a square to this new moon, really.
Yep.
It's just a few degrees. Jupiter's at 12 degrees
Yeah,
in
and we
Gemini.
have Jupiter squaring the sun. The sun squaring Jupiter is exact on Sunday, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're starting to feel into that, but I know for me that it's hopefully going to be a really magical night. I have a friend that I met on the other side of the world in
Oh,
India who's
yeah,
going to be
that's
making
right.
dinner for me and like four other friends. She's a Ayurvedic gourmet chef, and so it just happens to line up on the Pisces new moon, and there there's something magical
Hmm.
about Pisces too, and so I would it, it's facilitate. I mean, for me, Pisces is a collective water sign. So
Yeah.
like being in community, I think is important for me when I'm experiencing a
Yeah.
lot of Pisces, but it needs to be community. This is where Saturn comes in for me. That's like sober or
Hmm.
there's some sort of structure to it.
Right.
Because otherwise you can lose yourself in the mass emotion of
Right.
hysteria and
Right.
overwhelm.
Yeah, and I think that yeah, that's maybe like one of the downsides of Pisces is like enmeshment or like a self-abandonment or losing oneself, right? So like how do we come into connection and still maintain boundaries, right? Still maintain like ego identity, still maintain like separation in while inviting connection, right?
Yeah.
While inviting sharing, while inviting the mind meld,
hmm
right?
So if you weren't feeling Pisces season this week, by the time we get to Thursday, it's
Hmm.
like Pisces season is
Yeah,
really
popping
like,
off.
yeah, and it opens up the portals to eclipse
Yeah,
season,
yeah.
which I don't remember where I heard this or if it was something that came to me in a meditation, but I have heard eclipse seasons being spoken about as when any babies that are born in the next 6 months, this is the time when they start to enter
Mm,
into I guess, the auric field of the
yeah.
planet, or anyone who's passed away over the last 6 months, this is the time where
Mm,
their souls leave.
whoa.
So there's something too where once we get into eclipse season, it's for me, it's less about intention setting in your own life, but also just the gates are open
Yeah,
and just so being mindful of that. And so I think Saturn and Pisces particularly is reminding us to be mindful of our own
yeah.
boundaries because that's when things enter and leave.
Yeah. And Pisces is super porous,
Yeah.
right? It is like incredibly just like stuff is flowing in between, right? And like germs and diseases are like kind of connected with Pisces
Mhm.
because of the porous nature of it, right? Also like emotional porousness and like psychic porousness. And like these are not bad things, right? But to recognize what is like how do I what is the boundaries that I want to have? What is the sort of like protection that I want to have, right? What is the suit that I want to wear during this time to like make sure that my energy is kept clean, right? Or that I'm sharing energies in ways that feel intentional and not just like picking up on whatever or whoever is like in my space. Um,
Denim jackets.
yeah, denim jackets. That's actually like one of my protective
Totally.
yeah, spiritual armors is a denim jacket.
Bucket hats and
Yeah,
denim
that's
jackets.
right. And I think also a new moon is a great time for setting intention and planting seeds. And like Jeff was saying, like Pisces is a super magical time, right? So this is maybe a good time of like setting the intention for like how you want to be in connection, how you want to be in connection with the spirit, whatever that means to you. I like to call it the stuff, right?
Mm.
Like what is our relationship to magic? What is our relationship to our own spirit? spirituality? What is our relationship to the collective? And like sort of dipping into those waters in a really intentional way.
And how does your magic intersect with universal peace and
Yeah.
compassion too?
Yeah, yeah. How do we offer what we are doing in these bodies as these, pills of energy, and how do we share that into the collective soup that we are all participating in?
Yep,
Shall we?
beautiful. Alrighty.
This is going great. Thanks for doing
Yeah,
this
this
with
is
me.
fun.
Yeah, I hope y'all are having fun out there. I'm having a
Yeah.
blast. Okay, so also Thursday, February the 27th, we have, and this is exact during the new moon, we have Mercury in Pisces, sextile Uranus and Taurus. So this is 20 at 23 degrees, 35 minutes of Pisces and Taurus. So Mercury is not conjunct the new moon, but is in the same sign and throwing a supportive sextile aspect to Uranus and Taurus.
Oh, this is on the new moon.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this is being activated. And one of the things that I like about this transit, especially with this new moon, especially with these sort of like magic and intuition that we were talking
Yeah.
about, is like, Mercury again, our like thought processes, our mental abilities, and Uranus is like liberation, it's freedom, it's inspiration, it's genius. It's like, I think about this like kind of download of energy coming through with this if we are open to it, right? Uranus helps us to have like some out of the box thinking. Uranus helps us to, tap into inspiration. And I think that this can be really helpful, especially with Mercury coming off of the Saturn conjunction, which can be like, oh, everything's a bummer. Nothing's going to work. Everything's really hard. I'm depressed. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, wait, if I shift this around in a different way, if I look at this differently, oh, I just met this person and they were super inspirational. This gives me a totally new idea. And I think that this can create new inspiration and help us to deal with problems in new and pretty exciting ways.
And even as you were saying that, I was like,
Mhm.
oh, I should be filming some of this on my
Yeah,
camera. So I'm bringing in like a new perspective and
right,
some technology into the mix. And really, Uranus is often considered the higher octave of
right,
Mercury too.
right.
So they do vibe with each other, I find. And in the tarot, Uranus is the fool traditionally, and
Hmm.
Mercury is the magician. So
Hmm.
I would say there's an opportunity to really open yourself up to new radical insights in your life, particularly as it connects you to the material realm, being that it's Taurus. And so, as someone with Mercury and Pisces in the second house,
Hmm.
I really relate to that. And what's coming to mind is this. I've been collecting shattered glass on my morning
Mm.
walks, and I made a Stargate portal out of shattered glass, like separating the colors. And it's been a place that I've been meditating in, and we did a photo shoot of
Hmm.
Jonah in it. But it was kind of this full magician moment.
Hmm.
Jonah has this like beautiful sequin gold magician's
Oh,
cape.
they've
Oh,
seen
they've
it.
seen it.
If you've
Okay, it's
been
been on
tuning
there.
into this, you've seen it.
Well, that was my first
Yeah.
time seeing it and the way the light was catching it. But yeah, there was something in that moment that is making me think of this
Hell
transit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this idea of being able to like bring in something new, new information, right? That kind of inspires or like gets the wheels turning in a new way, right? Like something glittery, something shiny, something exciting. And on this day, on the new moon, on Thursday, maybe like going and talking to somebody, like striking up a conversation with a stranger,
Yeah.
or like bibliomancy, right? Just
Mm,
like opening a book, being like, what do you have to show me, and opening a book to a page,
yeah.
right? Or getting kind of like new information that helps to shift the perspective, I think is really valuable, especially when we're talking about the like this Pisces energy of this collective soup, right? The kind of magical universe that we're all
Yeah.
swimming in, right? And then being like, show me a sign, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't even have to be a stranger or a person. It
Mhm.
could be like something in nature.
Yeah,
Because Mercury and Pisces is so, the veil is so thin
right.
for Mercury and Pisces, and Uranus and Taurus, I have found like receiving new insights
Hmm.
while being in nature, which
Yeah,
Taurus is nature based. So
yeah.
yeah, maybe connecting to like a tree in your yard
Hmm.
or maybe you'll get a message from an animal. Like it does have that energy
Yeah.
to me.
And I'm like, my kind of worldview is very animist, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I like talking to objects. I like
Mm-hmm.
interacting with the things in my space because I think that everything is alive and has like something to share,
Yes.
And yeah, like Jeff was saying, this is a great time to tune into the animate world, right? Not just the human sentient world. Cool. Let's move on to Saturday. You feel good about that?
What a week.
Yeah, I
And
know.
now we're getting into even more movement that's taking place.
Yeah.
Mercury enters its shadow on Saturn's day, March 1st. We move
Mhm.
into March.
Yeah. And so the Mercury shadow begins at 26 degrees, 49 minutes of Pisces on March 1st, and then they will go retrograde on March 15th at 9 degrees and 35 minutes of Aries. So mark your calendar for that. And then
And
whoops.
that's 2 days after the Virgo full moon, which is looking to Mercury, which is pretty much starting to become stationary at that
Yep.
point.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Venus stations retrograde the same day at 10 degrees of Aries. And so this like 9 degrees, 10 degrees of Aries is really getting activated with these two planets stationing retrograde here.
There's that 9 degrees
Yep.
again.
Yeah, I know it's spooky,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We're in a 9 year, as a
Yeah.
reminder. Yeah. Okay,
And
so then yeah, Venus stations retrograde on that same day that Mercury enters its shadow.
yeah, Saturday, March 1st, Venus stations retrograde at 10 degrees and 50 minutes of Aries. So again, yeah, Mercury will come and station retrograde right around that point on the 15th, so 2 weeks later,
Yeah.
right? Just like activating that point. And one of the things that I've noticed with astrology is like the degrees, get sort of when something happens there, like a major conjunction, like Pluto Saturn, right? Like Uranus Pluto, which happened back in the 60s. There is like a pressure that is put on that degree that
Yeah.
kind of like gets reactivated, right? Every time something transits it or like passes by it, or other planets are interacting with it. The same thing with a retrograde, right? Planets slow down and they stop, and so they're sort of like pressing their energy into this degree and like really charging it up, that then it gets reactivated as other things occur
Yeah.
like on or near that degree.
I broke my big toe on Halloween
What?
in 2014, and every Halloween I get pings of pain in my big
Ooh,
toe. It's
yeah.
making me think of that.
Yeah, it's like that,
Yeah.
right? So, just to pay attention, if you have anything at like 9 or 10 degrees of the cardinal signs, like this is going to really be impacting those planets or points. And also just paying attention, how the Venus station feels, because that's going to be reactivated by the Mercury stationing
Yeah.
retrograde in a couple weeks.
Multiple choice answer says all the nines are pretty awesome.
Hmm.
And I love that username. Multiple
Yeah.
choice answer, all of the above.
Um, yeah. So, let's talk about Venus retrograde a little bit.
Yeah, I almost kind of want to ground us a little bit
Yeah,
in what
please.
Venus and Aries feels like
Please.
too, since that's part of the signature. But Venus and Aries brings an individualistic nature
Mhm.
to our overall pursuit of love and beauty. And so when I think of Venus and Aries in my own personal life, there is an importance for me to sort of reactivate my fashion sense.
Okay.
So with it in retrograde, I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna go through and kind of like get rid of things that no longer support
Mm,
me, and just spend a little extra time in these realms of self-discovery, which I think of with Aries. So
yeah.
that's how I'm taking it in my own personal
Yeah,
life.
I love that.
There's many ways that we could work with this
Yeah.
energy. But Aries, I personally like Venus in Aries. It's not always maybe, I mean, it can be passionate in one-on-one
Hmm.
relationships for sure. And there's a need to set boundaries in one-on-one relationships and really to claim what you desire.
Yeah.
That's been something that's coming up for
Yeah.
me for sure.
Yeah.
And so if you are in a relationship, like romantic wise, this could be a time where the two of you might, or three or four, how many ever, might start to really say, who am I as an individual and what do I want and what do I desire? And maybe there's some extra space that's created in that, but also that could reignite
Yeah.
some passion and flame
Yeah.
in
I
the
love that.
romance.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, this makes me think about the Mars retrograde, right? Which is also like rethinking desire, but in a different way, right? What am I willing to fight for? Like what like really activates me? Like what makes me upset,
Mhm.
right? And I think that the things that make us angry like also show us what's really important, right? And so there's been a lot of like rethinking that. And now Venus going retrograde is thinking about like how do I like what makes me feel beautiful, what makes me feel loved, like like, what do I desire? You know,
Hmm.
how do I want to feel in relationship,
Hmm.
right? And I,
And yeah, Venus is making that transition from an evening star to a morning star.
yeah, which I think, you know, Venus is the benefic of the night, so they're more comfortable as the evening star, right? And if we think about the daytime versus the evening time, right? The nighttime is the right time for love, you know what I'm saying? Like that's the Venus time, right? We like go to dinner with our friends, we so like do more socializing at night. Like
Unless you're an Aries or born in the year of the rooster, which aren't
yeah.
you a
Yeah,
rooster?
I'm a metal cock.
Sometimes sunrise
Yeah.
can be great for roosters
Yeah, I
too.
am not a morning person. Fuck that.
You've had two
Yeah.
coffees and an yerba mate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm just getting started. Um, yeah, and if it was later, I would think twice about doing this. I'd be like, oh God, like I have to do it when I'm like, you know, just rolling out of bed
Yeah,
basically.
yeah,
So before I know better. But you know, like the nighttime is when we do our like Venus things, right? It's like love making, socializing,
mhm,
we go on dates, we do the like have dinner, right? We get dressed up in fancy clothes, right?
mhm,
The daytime is a little harder, right? Because there's work, there's responsibility. Like Venus does not like to work, Venus does not like responsibility. You know, these are not like typical Venusian things. And so there's like more of a kind of struggle or action oriented kind of energy that Venus brings as the morning star. And they're also like associated with the light bringer. And traditionally, this was like a signature of like conflict or war. And I'm not
uh-huh,
saying that it's like gonna bring war or conflict. Like Lord knows we have enough of that in the world, but it is more of a like this is what I'm doing, right? It is more action oriented, and it is like the Venus shows up as the warrior queen here,
yeah,
right? And it's like this is what I'm going for. This is what I want,
yeah.
right? And it's less about like socializing and chilling and more about like going after what we desire, which can be really helpful. And I think the Venus in Aries like really emphasizes that also. And
Yeah.
then there,
But
yep,
she needs to go back to sleep. She's going back into
that's
Pisces.
what I'm saying, which I think, you know, I think that's actually really helpful because Venus is in detriment in Aries, right? So they are far from their home in this Mars ruled sign of Aries, which is hot and dry, and Venus is like moist and warm, right?
Mhm.
So they're like, oh, my skin's all messed up, right? But when they go back into Pisces, they are exalted, right? So they're going from this place where they're like, oh, like it's too dry and like none of my face products are working and like my skin's peeling. And then they go back into Pisces into the cooling, like, you know, warm waters of Pisces. And they're like,
Where she's
oh,
exalted.
exalted. Exactly. So raised up by a community that's like, Venus, we love you, right? So they can sort of like recharge and refresh and like have a, you know, a reorientation to like, oh, this is actually what makes me feel beautiful. And I don't have to fight so hard for it. You know what I'm saying?
When did Venus enter Aries? Do you
Uh,
remember?
no, I can look that up.
Here, I'll look it up over here so you don't have to.
Okay. Well,
Um,
no, I'm out of stuff to say.
okay. Well, I have when Venus entered her shadow, which,
Yeah.
by the way, 24 degrees of Pisces is when Venus entered her shadow because that's the point
Hmm.
that she'll be traveling back to.
Okay.
So that was on January 27th, Venus entered her shadow.
Okay.
And so then I just didn't have in my notes the day that Venus entered Aries, but why don't we look? So Venus entered Aries. This was okay, here we go. Venus entered Aries. This is right at the start. Oh, February 4th.
Okay.
Yeah, February 4th, Venus entered Aries. So you can think back to February 4th. Has it been like hot yoga vibes up in with Venus and entering Aries? Has it been drier? I've actually noticed living in the desert, like my face has
Mhm.
gotten drier, and we actually
Got some beauty
we
products
got some beauty
yesterday.
products
Yeah.
yesterday. Yeah,
Yeah.
for our face and our
Yeah.
skin. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then Venus and Mercury will line up on March 11th, just 2 days before the Virgo full moon. And then the Venus Cazimi, Sun and Venus
Hmm.
together at 2 degrees of Aries, is March 22nd. So it's just a few days into 2 days into Aries season. Venus will be there with
Yeah.
the Sun. I'll
Yep.
pause there. Well, then she re-enters Pisces on March 27th.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah.
the overview. I meant to have that somewhere in my notes.
Oh, and by the way,
Yeah.
the day that Venus goes back into Pisces, March 27th, Neptune's at 29 degrees. So
Yep.
the Venus Neptune conjunction at 29 degrees.
Right.
And Mercury and Neptune meet at 29 degrees of Pisces too. So there's also something around that anaretic degree of Pisces.
Yep. And then 3 days later, Neptune will enter into Aries on the 30th
Yep.
of March. So yeah, end of March gets like pretty intense. And so, just paying attention to what's coming up now, because these things might come to a head and be reactivated towards the end of March. Um, Also, one of the things that I wanted to bring in with the Venus retrograde is Venus only goes retrograde in five signs or five areas in the chart. So
Mm,
Gemini, Capricorn and Aquarius, Leo, Virgo, cusp, Aries, and then like Libra, Scorpio.
yeah.
And so every like 7, 8 years, Venus retrogrades in the same places. And so the
And
last time, go ahead.
what is that draw in the sky, right? It's the pentagram.
Hmm.
So these Kazemi points really make the five-pointed star. And this is from Ariel Gutman, I think,
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
pioneering
Yep.
thought leader in this.
Yeah.
They've dedicated their astrology career to that. And so I'm bringing to mind the Venus Kazemis are one point of a larger unfolding an
Yep.
8-year story.
Yeah. 8, 7, 8. Yeah.
Yeah, of the pentagram too. So you can think of the pentacle suit in the tarot as
Yeah.
well.
And also, the pentagram is the sort of like arms, legs, and head, right? It is the four elements and the spirit,
Mm.
right? So this is also like our relationship to the world around us is the pentagram. Um,
You know what's interesting with Venus and Aries? I had a friend say to me the other
yeah.
day, they were like, why is Venus associated with love and beauty? It's literally like the fieriest planet. So and I was thinking about Venus being in Aries with them
Mhm.
saying that and just calling to mind that actually Venus as a body,
Mhm.
like we're talking about going to Mars because Mars you can actually potentially land
Yeah.
on, but you wouldn't be able to do that with
Nah,
Venus.
yeah,
Yeah.
because they're smoking hot.
Yeah. Like,
Oh,
hey.
and so one of the things about this retrograde, this Venus retrograde, which is occurring in Aries, the last time that this happened was March
Ooh,
and April of 2017.
wow.
And so I talked about this a couple weeks ago, and we'll probably continue to talk about this because this is, there may be echoes or rhymes with what was going on in your life in the early spring of
That's
2017.
interesting because
Yeah.
that is connected to the shift in presidential power. That was the last time. That was the first spring that we had
Uh-huh.
of
That guy.
45 as
Yeah.
president. Yeah, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
And I do think there's something with all this Aries energy because as we head into the spring, it's like the sun is in Aries, Venus,
Hmm.
Mercury, Saturn, and
Hmm.
Neptune this spring also shift into
Yeah.
Aries. So I also work with Eris,
Hmm.
Eris, who's been in Aries since 1920 and
Whoa.
represents the women's suffrage movement,
Yeah.
women's rights, indigenous rights, climate change, global pandemics. All this is under the umbrella of Eris. So Eris is also there, and so is Chiron.
Yeah.
So there's like 6 or 7 placements in Aries this spring. So
Yeah.
Aries is really about like for me in many ways activism
Yeah.
and standing up for your rights as an individual. So when I see all of that, and by the way, Chiron and Eris join at 25 degrees of Aries this year.
Whoa.
I'm thinking about Project 25 with that
Hmm.
2025 and the need for us to really claim our self-sovereignty
Yeah.
is an overarching theme for 2025 for
Nice.
sure. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So we have Venus stationing retrograde this Saturday, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And
And
so that lasts when are they station direct? It's about 40 days and 40 nights. And yeah, so
interesting.
they will be retrograde until April the 12th when they station direct at 27 degrees and 37 minutes of Pisces. And so I think about my hot take with Venus retrograde, and I'm going to continue to talk about it like in future episodes. I'll talk more about the mythology, but I think that this is
Do you connect it to Persephone?
Persephone and the Inanna myth. Yeah, and also like Cupid and Psyche, it's a descent myth, right? And so the kind of mythology is about like going from a place of like naivety or like sort of not wanting to look below the surface, right? And
Mm,
then this descent where we are letting go of who we think we were, what we think we're supposed to love, how we're told to look, how we're told to relate,
right.
and like really tapping into our deep mind, our deep self, our like true passion, and also like learning to have compassion for the parts of ourselves that feel unloved or have been rejected. And I think that's a lot of this journey is like learning to find and relate to, have compassion for, and even if you can, love the parts of ourselves that people have been like, that's ugly, I don't like that, you're wrong, you're bad, that's dirty, right? And learning to like find those, love them, have compassion for them, reclaim them. And when we are able to do that, like that makes us gives us a greater capacity to love ourselves, and through that each other, and bring that love into the world.
Nana.
Yeah.
That's my name.
Yeah.
Nana.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole deep dive workshop
Yeah.
right there in
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
You did a lot of research on Neptune and Aries
yeah.
too, which I'm kind of getting ahead to March 30th
Mhm.
there. But like there's something about Venus stationing retrograde in this point where I'm like, oh, Venus is coming back to say hey to Neptune as he makes
Mhm.
his way into Aries. So
Yeah.
there's something in the bigger picture where I'm like, Neptune's about to enter Aries, y'all.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
happening.
Yeah.
Because I've been meditating on this month for the last year and a half, being like, what is going to be going on
Yeah.
here? I would have never known actually that you would be sitting here at my place in the desert. I wasn't even living in the desert
Yeah.
at that time, like, because I've only been here for 6 months. So things are brewing and
Yeah.
changing, and there's new connections coming
Yeah.
into our life. And
Yeah.
I think for me, I've only been an astrologer since Neptune's been in Pisces, which was 2011. So,
Yeah.
and Neptune doesn't rule over astrology, but I'm a very Neptunian
Yeah.
astrologer. So
Yeah. And
there's things shifting that I'm just curious to see how it unfolds.
yeah, and I think, same here, right? I started practicing magic. I started practicing, learning the tarot, practicing astrology, etc., all with Neptune in Pisces. And I
Yeah.
think, collectively, what Neptune in Pisces brought to the game was revitalization of magic, right? We see Chris Warnock and John Michael Greer published the Picatrix in 2011, which I'm sure was not a coincidence. But that like really kicks off a revitalization of astrological magic. And also, there's a whole upsurgence or swell of like tarot people like making tarot decks. There's like Astro Twitter. There's the internet, which is like a Neptunian like interconnection, right?
And I mean, really, Neptune conjunct Uranus
Yeah,
started that, and
yeah,
then Neptune was in
yeah.
Aquarius, and then now
Right.
Pisces. So,
Right. So it's like bringing this sort of like energy of magic into the collective. And I
mhm.
think, a lot of us like really benefited from that. And my curiosity is like, what do we do with this magic that we have been studying since 2011, when Neptune enters Aries? Like, and I think about Aries as like cardinal fire, right? It's igniting, it's starting a fire, it's an ignition, right? It's initiating a thing. So like, what do we do with this magic, right? When it's time to like ignite something, when it's like when we put the key in the ignition and turn it on.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're at Saturday now. Is there anything on Sunday in this week, March
Yeah.
2nd?
Yeah. Let's skip ahead. So yeah, Sunday, March 2nd, we have Mercury in Pisces conjunct Neptune in Pisces at 28 degrees and 57 minutes. And then later that day, we have the Sun in Pisces square Jupiter in Gemini.
So Mercury and Pisces conjunct Neptune. This is interesting because Mercury is going to come back
Hmm.
and say hey to Neptune and Pisces
Hmm.
the day Neptune leaves Pisces for
Hmm.
Aries. So
Yep.
this is also bringing it back to Neptune's entering Aries soon.
Yep.
That's when I see the bigger picture, that's what it makes
Yep.
me think of. But I guess Mercury and Neptune together, what do you make of that?
Well, like just based on what you're saying, right? This is like Mercury helps us to like kind of translate some of these, especially like outer planet energies, right? So this might give us some information of like, okay, what is this? Like, what is Neptune trying to say, right? Which is like, who knows?
Since 2011.
Yeah, since
Yeah.
2011, right? And then Mercury's gonna come back and like check back in, right? So like maybe taking notes on like what you're experiencing Sunday, because this is going to like maybe come back in as Mercury comes back to conjunct Neptune again, just as they are leaving Pisces. So yeah, this is an opportunity to like kind of download some information that's been brewing for quite a while.
And it's good there's a retrograde actually,
Hmm.
because this is the last time Mercury will line up with Neptune while Neptune's in
Yeah,
Pisces
for our lifetimes.
for our
Hmm.
lifetimes. So the retrograde, I'm also curious about that day Neptune enters Aries, which is March 30th.
Yeah.
Mercury goes back into Pisces, lines up with
Hmm.
Neptune, and that's the final
Yeah.
message that we'll receive in
Yeah.
that Neptune and Pisces cycle.
Yeah, I think I need to check because I know that Neptune will retrograde back into Pisces for a time period, but
But it won't, the sun
yeah,
won't be in Aquarius or
right.
Pisces yet, so
You're right.
Mercury won't
Yeah,
won't be
you're
there
right.
either. Yeah. So I was just thinking because
Yeah,
Neptune will enter Aries for good at the end of January.
right.
So I don't think
Yeah.
there's not a,
I appreciate the
yeah.
ask like that you can keep charts in your head like that because I like I need to look at it. Makes my job
But you
easier.
know what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying though.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
it's in your brain too.
Right on. Um, yeah.
Yeah, so Mercury and Neptune, I'm also there's like a ripple to that Mercury and Saturn where it's like a day where you might receive messages about
Mm.
Saturn, and so now
Yep.
we're like this is a day you might be receiving messages,
About Neptune.
yeah,
Right.
very cool,
Yeah, and I think
which can
that
be dreams.
yeah, yeah, that's what I'm talking about is like dreams, unconscious information, emotional information, right? The kind of like creative, intuitive information. There's a real opportunity for that to come through on the like, watch out for this. Neptune can be illusion, delusion, it can be like straight up lies, right? So
Doom scrolling.
yeah, doom scrolling, checking out. Um, I would be very careful if you are doing business on this day because things may not be what they seem. So I would like if
Unless you're a hypnotist.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Great day for hypnotism, right? But like not a great day for I don't know, like buying swampland in Florida or a bridge in New York.
Whoops.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'd wait a couple days to like sign the papers and just like have a lawyer check it over if you're trying to buy a bridge in Brooklyn. But but like I think spiritual practice, writing poetry, devotional poetry, creativity, meditation, right?
Hot springs.
Hot springs, right? Trying to like tune it, bathing, right? Trying to tune into the music of the universe.
Bless
Um,
your water.
yeah. Free writing or like stream of consciousness writing. I think that these are all great activities. Like anything that requires like regimented logical thought is going to be a lot harder to do and be a little more confusing. And just like leave space for miscommunications because they might arise. And to think about how do you talk without language, right? Trying to like
Mm.
communicate maybe like more intuitively or through I don't know,
Telepathic
yeah,
communication,
yeah,
sending love to someone maybe that it doesn't feel safe for you to be in physical connection
yeah,
with. If there's anyone that you like past relationships
yeah.
or past lifetime, just you can visualize sending love.
Thank you and good luck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
and
Yeah, good
any of
call.
y'all that have like your sun, moon, or rising at these final
Mhm.
degrees of Pisces, you know what we're talking about because
Yeah.
you've had Neptune hanging out
Yeah.
there. So this day that Mercury comes in might bring you some new insights too.
Hell yeah. Um,
We're getting close to time here.
yeah. Okay. Last transit. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so also on Sunday, we have the Sun in Pisces square Jupiter in Gemini. This is going down at 12 degrees and 25 arc minutes. So, this is sort of like in the new moon chart as well. And then the Sun will perfect this square on Sunday. And so, Jupiter is benefic. They bring, like you were saying, blessings to the game. It's like a planet of
Mhm.
expansion. But a square is a challenging aspect. And
Yeah.
so, one of the things that I think about with this is like Jupiter is like, yeah, more, put it on my plate. And the sun can say yes to all these things,
Yeah.
right? And which might like saying yes to stuff leading up to the end of the week and then coming into the beginning of next week and being like, oh damn, what did I do? Now I have
Yeah.
like way too much stuff going on. And then the sun will conjunct Saturn on March 12th. And so all the stuff that you say yes to this week, then when the sun conjunct Saturn on March 12th, like that's the deadline. It's time to
Mm.
pay the piper, right?
Ooh.
And you might be like, oh, damn, what did I do?
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
like Saturn will be the consequences of everything that you indulged in and said yes to this week.
Hell yes.
Hmm.
It's making me think of a song by Pisces Sun, Pisces Moon, Erica Badu.
Uh-huh.
There's something about the Jupiter and Gemini that brings in a little bit of the wordplay,
Hmm.
but it's on and on. But it's
Yeah.
peace and blessings manifest with every lesson learned.
Mm.
If your knowledge were your worth, then it would be well earned.
Yeah.
And there's something over
Perfect.
this Sun in
Yeah.
Pisces, Jupiter and Gemini square where I'm
Hmm.
like, ooh, I'm still thinking poetry here. I'm
Hmm.
still thinking wordplay. I'm
Hmm.
thinking there's an opportunity to be with your cosmic twin and just
Yeah.
be kind of riffing off of each
Yeah.
other in magical spiritual ways. That's what these mutable signs together make me
Yeah.
think of.
Yeah. And so, thinking about like what is right sized, I think is really good for this transit, right? To think about like what is right for me, because, there might be a bunch of stuff that's offered, a lot of things that you want to indulge in, a lot of like things that you want to say yes to, but really thinking about what are my limits, what are my boundaries, what is the
Mm,
like, because just knowing that in 2 weeks, like Saturn's going to show up, right, and give us some like deadlines, give us some like hard edges, right?
and
So
we
we,
need them.
yeah, we do because, right, like if it just keeps expanding and expanding and expanding, it like dissipates,
Yeah,
right? And we
yeah.
can't hold it. Like the relationship of Saturn and Jupiter, I think, is the breath, right? Like the
Mm,
expansion and the contraction, right? And this is like how we live,
yeah,
right? And to like think about what is the like right amount for me to like breathe in before I have to breathe out.
yeah.
And so, when things like show up like coming into this weekend, right, to really think about what can I hold, what do I want to hold, what like do I want to be responsible for, just knowing that Saturn's going to be right there. And I think that's the great relationship between Saturn and Jupiter that we're going to really get to experience over the next 2 weeks.
Awesome. What a week.
Hell yeah. Thanks for doing this with me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure and honor.
Yeah.
I love connecting with you,
Yeah.
and I'm glad to see you back on Instagram.
Yeah. This dude like was like, I can't, like, you gotta do it. And like pulled me back in, and now I
No,
might be
I
stuck.
know, I know.
No,
I'm so
thank you. I
sorry.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
And like to all the homies out there on Instagram, I missed you all, and I guess I'm back here now. So I'll see you next week. Jeff, you want to
On
tell?
this weekend's Wave.
Yeah. Pew, 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 pew. Jeff, you want to tell the folks a little bit about what you do, if you have anything coming up, what your offerings are? Also, I just want to put it out there. I got a astrology reading from Jeff. It was
Oh,
fantastic and like really unlocked some things for me. So,
heck yeah.
take it from this dude. Jeff is a fantastic astrologer, and I
Oh,
really enjoyed working with you.
thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Double Aquarius Virgo Moon over here. Website's cosmiccousins.com. I offer deep dive mentorships. I work with people for 6 to 12 months. Anyone who's wanting to have any support around their astrology practice. And I'm also working on a tarot deck in collaboration with the travel company Lonely Planet, which is set to come out in February of 2026.
I'm so excited for
Yeah.
this. I am
One
so
card
excited for
for,
this.
there's a country for each card or a location for each card. And so Jonah's been helping me specifically connect to the magician card, which is set as San Francisco. And Jonah came in from San Francisco on their way down. So more to come with that. There'll be some more stories and
Yeah.
synchronicities around that, I'm sure.
I'm so excited for this deck. It looks super cool, and the descriptions are brilliant, and the artwork is beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Also, I just want to say that me and Jeff was taking me through a tarot journey yesterday to go meet the magician, which was like mind blowing. And so,
Mm.
Jeff's tarot game is on point. So if folks are looking for a tarot reading, or I
Oh,
don't know if you offer those
I do.
journeys,
I do.
yeah, if
That's my style of tarot reading.
oh, it's
Yeah.
great. So yeah,
And what do you have going on?
what do I have going on? So I've been on vacation for like 2 months, and I'm about to head back home. This is the last leg of my journey. So I'll be back, and I'll be opening my books for doing astrology, tarot, and coaching, starting second week of March. So if you want to work with me, hit me up. You can DM me Blind Stallion Space Wizard on Instagram, or email me campwizardcamp Gmail, or go to my website, or you can find me. That's my website is campwizardcamp.com. I'm teaching a 8-part class with the brilliant and talented Marlene Seven Bremner. This is a class on the 7 classical planets through myth, magic, alchemy, and psychology. We do a deep dive into each planet every week with an 8th week for integration, and we're looking at what the mythology of the planets are, how they show up in the great work of alchemy, how we. Oh,
Oh, we got cut off
yeah,
Instagram. She said bye.
yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so if you're interested in that, this is the last
Saturn.
week to show up, or sorry, this is the last week to sign up. And you can sign up at marlena7bremner.com. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. And yeah, it's going to be fantastic. It starts March 1st and runs 8 weeks on Saturdays. And it's a great way to get to know the planets and to work with them in your personal life. And then also, I'm going to be at LA Astro Fest. That is the 25th and 27th of April, the 25th through 27th of April. And I'm giving a talk on IFS, internal family systems, and parts work, and astrology. So that's going to be super cool. I'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. And I think that, my friends, is all the astro weather that is fit to print. Thanks for showing up and tuning in. And
Take sweet care. Remember, deep breaths.
mhm. And till next time, my friends, be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and as always, may the force be with you.
Hey.
Bye now.